Sanbonani, good morning and welcome to the Durban Business Fair 2020. My name is Noni Gasa and today I'll be facilitating a very important conversation that we need to have amidst the pandemic that we find ourselves in with COVID-19. We're filled with all sorts of business people in this room today, and we hope that our distinguished panel of guests, who are an all-star panel of thought leaders and marketing experts, we hope that today you walk away with information and the right kinds of tools and the right kinds of information that we'll be sharing that will hopefully aid you in getting out of this crisis we find ourselves in. This year's theme is titled, Experience the Journey of Innovation. 2020 has been a rough year for businesses of all sizes. No one is immune to the effects of COVID-19. So whether you're selling a product or service, you've been impacted by budget cuts, job losses, or just downspend from consumers who have little to no disposable income. Thousands of companies simply didn't survive this pandemic. They simply didn't make it through lockdown. That has resulted in over 3.6 million job losses in South Africa. And you already know unemployment is excessively high in our country. So what happens now? Where to from here? And these are the answers that we seek today and that we hope our panel of speakers will be able to answer, because essentially the purpose of the Durban Business Fair is to equip SMEs and thriving entrepreneurs to realize their greatest dreams, even in times like this. So our conversation today comes at a critical time, and through the sharing of knowledge and experience, we hope that you too will learn a thing or two. The order of events is as follows. We're very honored to have Mr. Thebe Ikalafeng kickstart the program by framing today's topic. The topic today is titled Crisis Marketing, Finding Opportunities and Trends Amidst COVID-19. Thebe is widely quoted as the preeminent voice on brands in Africa. In fact, everything Thebe does is centered around Africa. He's incredibly passionate about the continent and has visited every single country on the continent. And he's, of course, inspired and driven by his Africa-focused agenda. He is the founder of the award-winning Brand Leadership Group and will be presenting to us this morning. Thank you for joining us today, Thebe. Next, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Sylvester Chalke, who really needs no introduction. He is a creative powerhouse who's had an illustrious career in branding and communications since his days in ad agencies, as national marketing manager for Nando's, as communications and marketing director for MTV Networks. He is the founder and CEO of the multi-award-winning DNA Brand Architects and the author of Stand Against Bland. Welcome, Sylvester. Thank you. We're also joined by the Nokuthula Knox Magwaza, a multi-award-winning serial entrepreneur who is passionate about women's empowerment, who's passionate about business development and giving back to the community. Knox is the founder and MD of Bloom Marketing. She's a business coach, a mum, and now also the author of her first ebook, which was published recently, titled Born to Bloom. Welcome, Knox, and thank you for joining us. Lastly, welcome, Spare. We're joined by this beautiful PR and communications maverick, as Ms. Pelele Mjadu, who is the head of PR, influencer marketing, and social at Unilever Africa. Spare is passionate about brands and brings over 15 years' experience at the helm of communications for some of your favorite consumer goods and beauty brands. It is our honor and privilege to have her sit on this panel. Thank you for giving us your time this morning. Thank you. Today we're joined by you, our audience here at the Durban ICC. We also welcome our viewers who are joining us on CNBC Africa, as well as those who've joined us virtually via live stream. So without further ado, I would like to now hand over to Mr. Tebe Ikalafeng.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noni. What an interesting times we are living in. So I thought, let me just frame the times that we're living in. We are at a point where a lot of us are feeling like, a little bit like the Wright brothers in 1903, when they were about to skid off and decided maybe it's about taking off rather than skidding off. But let's think where we've been along this journey. We've been to a time where in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, everybody says, don't go to that country. We understand crisis, we've seen them. We've seen in the Great Depression, people asking for jobs. The same things that we're going through today. They says, why can't you give my dad a job? The the bombing of the Hiroshima, you guys remember all that. You remember the great crisis, the financial crisis. But throughout history, throughout all those times, you remember a young man like Beethoven in his 20s. Imagine at the prime or the peak of his career, in his 20s, just got married. His career was on the rise. He began to lose his hearing. And he asked himself the question, the most beautiful years of my life, where I can accomplish anything, have just been wasted. But as Henry Thoreau says, all misfortune is but a stepping stone to great fortune. Beethoven did think about it. He says, no, I cannot endure it. I will take my fate by the throat. It shall not wholly overcome me. I will change. In the midst of the 60s and all those we have right out of here from the Republic of South Africa, the first heart transplant, in the midst of all the darkness, the heart transplant being developed here, innovated in this country. You had a first man going on the moon, and as Neil Armstrong says, this is but just a small step for man, but a giant leap for mankind. So in the midst of all these crises, even in the 90s when South Africa was beginning to change and the rest of the world was in turmoil, the internet was introduced. During all this time, the last 10, 15 years, the things we cannot live without, Instagram, Uber, WhatsApp, all were introduced in the midst of all the crises. Here we go again. Back to another crisis. Wuhan, the COVID pandemic, the lockdown, and all of us are going through same things that we went through. Every single cover of every single magazine, newspaper, all they talk about is COVID. When is it over? And many of us have gone through this. We've gone through the period where everything is closed. And we're at a point where we're asking ourselves a question. Where to from here? Where to from here? Here and everywhere else in the world, airlines are set to lose over $100 billion because nobody is flying. South African Airways, we used to have how many planes? We used to have about 100 or 80. We're down to four physical planes. 40% unemployment in this country. COVID has wreaked its havoc. Nothing more gut-wrenching than listening to the CEO of Edcon crying about what this does, what this means, how many jobs he's going to lose. Losing the company, Edgar's, forget the jobs, every single thing going. But I love what Wendy Phipps said. It is in the quiet crucible of your personal private suffering that your noblest dreams are born and God's greatest gifts are given in compensation for what you've been through. We are going through some difficult times, but we are going to get out of them. We are going to get out of them because throughout all this period, we have seen evidence of how amazing the human spirit is, evidence of how innovative we are as people who are saying we are moving forward. We are not going to be throttled by the pandemic. We're not going to be throttled by the crisis. We are going to thrive out of it. Yes, if you read everything, you begin to read about the industries which are going to go out. But as much as they say that all the industries, aviation, manufacturing, are going to be the big losers, there's also the alternate side. They are the winners. The winners in medical supply, the winners in food, the winners in personal healthcare, the winners in ICT. The question is, what are we going to do with that opportunity which is facing us? Not that which we have lost. What has happened throughout this time? All of a sudden, everybody's main language is not, I need to go to my office. It's, I need to get to a Zoom meeting. The Zoom stocks have skyrocketed because the opportunity that's been presented is we don't have to go to work to do work or to be at work. You know, I sat on the board of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, and one of the things I was saying to the CEO, I said, oh, man, I'm going to miss going out to nature. I'm going to miss going to see the wild. I'm going to miss to see the beauty of the continent, of the country. People says, no, we will bring it to your house. Rethink. You have to rethink. Black Coffee says, well, before level 3, he couldn't fly out anywhere else, but he says, but I can fly right into your screens. I can use the technology to get to deliver the music that you love about us. Bocelli enthralled us. Over 40 million people watched Bocelli perform. 40 million watched him perform by himself to all of us, front row in our homes. This opportunity means that for many people who are used to going to fashion shows and fashion weeks and all those, G-Star says, what are we going to do? Let us deliver to every single model in their home and ask them to turn their passages into the runway. Rethinking about how you go over this. Brands, our favorite brands like the Nando's and all those, they said, turns out finger licking isn't good. They didn't say don't eat chicken. They said we will bring it to your house, just don't lick your fingers. So it's how you look at the problem. So don't look at the problem and say, I can't have chicken anymore. It's I can have chicken, but I have to change my habits, I have to change my behaviors. You look at businesses like General Motors, all of a sudden now making ventilators. You look at Louis Vuitton, no longer selling suitcases, because where are you traveling to? Everybody's at home. They said, but we can use hand sanitizers because we've got the technology, we've got everything that can help us. Young man Tepo says to me, Uncle T, do you know I was so depressed the first week of COVID? And I said, how did you get out of it, my boy? He said, the masks saved my business. I said, what do you mean? He says, because a week or two late into the COVID, we then started thinking, how can I use the machines? How can I use the people? How can I intervene for good in the country? He said, I now sell more masks than jeans during this period. He rethought how he does things. Checkers, they say in 60 seconds, they will deliver. We never used to do that for Checkers. We used to go stand in line. But now you only stand in line at your gate waiting for your stuff. Of course, people are going to make lots of babies. They're at home, right? So what you going to name them? COVID and Corona, like they do in India. So it was just a matter of time that we're going to do things like that. What crisis are you guys talking about? There is no crisis. As a young man said, standing on the edge of a cliff, what if I fall? It responded, oh, my darling, but what if you fly? It is how you think about the problems that are facing you that determines how you get through this crisis that we're in. 5 things you need to remember on how you're going to get out of it. You need to reset. because every single one of us is at ground zero. So you are at the reset point where you need to rethink how you move forward. You need to use the time to reflect, to think, to look back so you can go forward. You need to reframe. I think the examples I've shown you how people have reframed, whether it's Louis Vuitton or whether it's Tempo jeans, you have to reframe your business, your thinking. Most importantly, you have to respond. You can't lie in bed eating magwenya the whole day and hoping the problems are going to be solved by you sitting at home and moping and crying. You need to get out of bed and respond. You need to have a sense of restraint at the same time. As we've seen during those COVID, we've seen the ills of humanity as well. We're all marketers here. We know what marketing is. It's what you say it is. We want to build great brands. Building great brands is when the customers tell you you're a great brand. Because branding is what the customers say. It's not what you say it is. Finally, remember what brands are about. It's about making promises and delivering on the promise. Forget all the textbooks. Marketing is a simple science. Promise made, promise delivered. Whatever the promise is. But most importantly, going through this difficult time we're in, the restraint we must have is to avoid doing the wrong thing out of desperation. Doing the wrong thing out of greed. Doing the wrong thing because you think you have no other alternative. Because we will get through this period, and when we are through this period, you will remember what Warren Buffett said. It takes 20 years to build your reputation and 5 minutes to destroy it. If you think about it, you'll do things differently. We will get through this together as long as we don't let a good crisis go to waste.
Knox, if I may start with you. As a leading businesswoman in your own right, as a business coach, mentoring other business people, what has been your experience of the past 7 months and how you've been directly affected by COVID-19 and how you've had to pivot your business to suit what's going on?
Thank you so much, Nani. I don't know if my mic is on. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank the city of Durban and Tegrini, my peers and colleagues who've taken time to come and actually share lessons and learnings. And it is indeed a period where we are building our helicopters and wings and building parachutes on our way down. And the whole idea is that we don't crash. So the starting point for me was, I never thought I would be a parent teacher. So immediately, like with 2 children, what you call a mompreneur, my home was both a school and an office. So that was an immediate shock. When I listened to some of the recordings and consultations with my clients, I can hear my children in the background, but we didn't even apologize for it. And then immediately we had to obviously move our teams to home and ensure connectivity. Immediately everybody had to be on Zoom. So that period for me was an interesting one where the starting point, I love how Tebe was speaking about rethinking, rephrasing. For us and for me, it started with reviewing. What does this mean for my business? What does it mean for my team? What does it mean for my clients and my customers? And immediately we had to review strategies, marketing plans that we had. In Q2, every conference, we probably had four conferences and 2 activations for brand activations that got rescheduled, some got canceled. Immediately revenue down for Q2. There was no sense of panic as such because there was that understanding of it may come through, but in the latter part of the financial year, it's a delay, it's not a denial or complete shutdown. So for me, it was that reviewing and with a clear resolve of actions that we needed to take, engage with our customers, let them know where we can assist them and help them. So we didn't freeze. I personally didn't freeze. It was a time where I needed to dig deep in my own faith, in my own belief. We've seen challenges before. Businesses looked like they were falling apart. In 2010, for me, post the 2008 economic meltdown, so I kind of have been through a situation where it felt like it's not working. So I didn't freeze. So that review, clear resolve of engaging with your customers, knowing exactly how to move forward. But what I've seen as a coach is that a lot of women were converting and wanting assistance with transitioning their 9 to 5 to businesses or their side hustles to main businesses. So our agency...
Sorry, could you tell us a little bit more about that? So you mentor, you're a business coach, and you mentor women or anyone starting a business?
Predominantly and primarily, I mentor women in business. I've had gentlemen that I've obviously consulted with and assist them, but I've set Bloom Inside Out as a consultancy and capacity building space for small businesses. Because as Bloom Marketing, you wouldn't expect a startup agency to have the budget of a well-established Unilever brand. So it's a way that actually fills our pipeline and grow with startups to the point where they are big businesses and they can go through huge marketing activations and plans. So that for me was an interesting space to see how a lot of them had side gigs, side hustles, that they were very clear. I wanted in the market, I wanted visible online, I want a digital brand presence. So the increase in our agency in setting up new business websites, setting up social media platforms and building their digital brands was quite an upswing in the business, which was not as much in the past few years, but it was an immediate accelerator when this happened.
So that's a positive thing for your business.
Absolutely.
You actually thrived through this
Absolutely.
period because of that.
Yeah.
Were there any commonalities between the businesses that you mentor and your own businesses?
Commonalities were more about how do I, now that I have a brand and now I have a product, I have a service. So I've got professionals like dentists as well and dermatologists who said, I need more people to know about my business. Before, they expected people to just walk in or be told by others, but they now understand that marketing is not a luxury. Marketing is a very imperative business cost that you have to invest into the business to drive growth. So with digital, everybody wanted to amplify their message, amplify their services, consult even online. I've got a dermatologist who's consulting online as I speak with you, so my daughter consulted with her, like virtually.
Wait, how does a dermatologist consult online?
She's got a platform. You literally take a video of your face. You take pictures of your skin from every angle. This is Dr. Nokbonga Khoza in Durban. And she literally receives all the uploaded stuff on her online platform. She does a diagnosis, and then she gives you a call when she can fit you in, because what she realized is that she can't see everybody, one, and fit all the inquiries that are coming from even outside of Durban. Now she can consult with clients outside of Durban, post office hours, which has also increased her business growth during this time. So there's been a lot of the digital, take advantage of the digital and technology.
I think that's a great example of finding opportunity amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. Sylvester, as a leader, you have many people who look up to you and rely on you to feed their families, to keep the boat steering and steady. How did you manage to, I guess, psych yourself up to keep everything intact and to stay level-headed when it seemed like everything around you was crashing?
True. I think that what was incredible for me was that when COVID hit, I remember sitting in my office just when the president had just announced the fact that we're starting a 21-day lockdown. And of course, there was a huge sense of worry, for the business and how the business was going to operate, but more importantly, how our people were going to operate, because not all of us were of the same sort of level of lifestyle. Where my staff live, do they have access to the right technology, the right room for them to be able to work, because of the kind of work that we do. So I was really quite concerned about how that was going to manifest. And then a couple of days in, what was obvious as well was the fact that there was this avalanche of information. I was on calls with BCG, the big consulting companies that were giving you advice about what you must do. McKinsey and Co. telling us exactly what we need to do, listening to podcasts and panels. So you had this huge sense of information, because not all businesses are the same. And my challenges are going to be very different to a challenge that an SAA is facing, or a Nando's, or a KFC, or a Tiger Brands. So I knew that I needed to find a way to sift through all this information and make it more relevant to what I needed to do. So for me, there were key things around our people. And I think many times, and what I've seen in the last 6 months, is that there's a huge focus on businesses pivoting, looking at your marketing opportunities, and readjusting your marketing spend, etc. But there's an area that is being left out, which is the people area, the individuals that work in your business, the individuals that are doing the promotions for you, that are delivering for you. And I think a huge opportunity, and something that is not necessarily being communicated or engaged enough, is really the importance of ensuring that that was going to be center. Because if you think about it, I know my staff, they were not only worried about the business and them getting salaries, but they were having incredible amounts of challenges around their families. So COVID-19 infections in their families, in their homes, or gender-based violence, transport, food. I mean, there were so many issues. So you are dealing in the value chain, you are dealing with incredible amounts of, psychological necessities that needed to be looked at outside of just managing my business, my brands, and my clients. And I think that was quite important. So we needed to look in and understand, how do we manage this process? So upweighting HR for me was important. Calls with every staff member was important. How are you doing? Where do you live? Do you have access? Do you have a room? Can you take a Zoom call at this time? Does that make sense? Do you have families? What time do they have to be up? Are you exercising? Are you, there's so many different elements, and I think that I remember was quite challenging to manage. But ultimately for me, it brought me back to the core of just understanding that people in marketing who are managing these crises are people as well, and they also need to be looked after and managed.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sylvester. That's so important. Like you said, too few people consider the human element in all of this, and the impact on our mental health, and it's been very tough. But I love that you put your people front and center, because that's essentially the core, the backbone of your business.
It's everything.
Yeah. Spare, thank you so much for joining us. You have been in quite a unique position, in the sense that, like I said earlier, Spare works for Unilever. She's the head of PR and social and influencer marketing. And overnight, everything just came to a grinding halt. And people were no longer allowed to buy beauty products. People were no longer allowed to buy your goods. What was the initial response when you went into lockdown, and I guess for your team, how did you rally and make it work, given all the challenges in level 5?
So I wanted to take a chance just to greet everyone that's here before going into the answer. So good afternoon, everyone. I think it's important, exactly to what Sylvester was alluding to, it's about people. But obviously from a Unilever perspective, we serve a consumer. So it's important for us to really understand what that consumer needed at that moment. As much as we care for the people that work for the business, we also need to understand the consumer. What are they feeling? We need to be sympathetic. We need to understand where they're at and what is going on in their life. Because as we know, with the crisis, for everyone inside this room, it came as a shock. I remember when, just before, I think the end of February, I was traveling to New York. I think I was probably, it was just the week before lockdown. And it was a scary moment. And from a perspective of marketing, that's how we do marketing. We advertise, we host events, we host people. We had to really rethink what our consumer wants at that moment, and really understand where their mind space. So understanding, are they wanting hygiene? Are they wanting to take care of themselves? Are they wanting to take care of their hair? Are they wanting sorry about that. Are they wanting self-care moments? As we understand with the crisis that it comes with a lot of anxiety, it comes with a lot of uncertainties about what's going on and how you're going to feel outside. So I think from a Unilever perspective, but from a marketing perspective or from a business perspective, it's important to understand what your consumer is going through, and to make sure that your marketing strategies are aligned to that, and to sympathize with them and understand that during a time of crisis, all they really need is someone to actually give them a shoulder to cry on. So from a marketing perspective, it was about just understanding that what does our consumer need, and how can we better cater to them and fulfill their need.
Thank you. And with regard to campaigns just sort of coming to this abrupt end, what happened then? Because you were 5 to pressing the button on a big launch, apparently, no?
Yes, I think for the past, we host events, just to paint a little bit of a picture. We host probably 2 events every second week, every month. We normally start that in Q2, which is in April. And that means that all those events we can't do because from a lockdown restrictions perspective, no events were meant to be done. So we had to rethink in terms of like, how do we market to them? So it's understanding how will our consumers actually use beauty at home. So it's about saying, you at home, you're in lockdown, you're not allowed to be outside, you can't go to the barber, you can't go to the gym, you can't go to the salon, you can't go to the spa. And those are the products that we knew that we serve, and they can bring that moment for consumers to actually really enjoy themselves at home. And to what Tebo was alluding earlier on about how big strategies during a crisis actually bring about to actually truly understand your consumer. Because at that moment, we then understood that we actually haven't been communicating to the person that buys our products. We haven't been educating them how to use our products at home. So it brought about the birth of Beauty at Home, which launches today, which is about really encouraging people to understand how to use our products, because we are mindful that they can't get to where they need to get to. And they're a bit skeptical to going to crowd places. So we want to make sure that we educate them, we equip them with information on how to use the products.
Thank you. Tebe, as the preeminent voice and authority on African brands, you interface very regularly with small business owners and entrepreneurs from Cape to Cairo. What is the largest impact that has affected, or how have they been greatly affected by COVID from the conversations you've been having online and the seminars and the live streams you've been holding? And what does it mean for the small business owner who doesn't have these massive budgets to mitigate risk? We see that these massive companies, of course, can absorb the pressure of the past 9 or so months. But what happens to the small businessmen, many of them who are here today, who are thinking, well, what now? My business is either on the brink of closure or has already closed. How do I reinvent myself? How do I start again?
I think you've touched on probably the hardest hit person or the hardest hit individual, which is that not the person who's got a laptop, not the person who's got an office, but that person who every day stands on a corner, sells a loaf of bread, because that loaf of bread is enough for the food for the day for his or her family. That person who goes out and hustles every day, it affected them the most, I think more than anything else. But then it speaks to the most important job of every government, which is empathy and understanding. So our job, our governments, from Cape to Cairo, had to now understand, how do I now replace that which they've lost? How do I put that loaf of bread back on their table? That's why countries like Ethiopia, for example, then started saying people can come and collect loaves of bread. That's why our country perhaps said people will get 350 rand. So empathy has been the most important thing. But of course, what then that has done a lot of as well, you've seen the same spirit of entrepreneurship as well in the country. So instead of now selling magwenya and all those, they all reframed. They started selling those very masks. They now started saying, how can I use my mobile phone to sell airtime, to sell a lot of other things through my phone? So even that small entrepreneur, even that entrepreneur in the street, in the lowest part of the economy, they've also had to rethink. They've also had to rethink in terms of how do I use my present situation to still rethink, reinvent, and be able to deliver on what I do. But at the end of the day, in every society, you are going to have the haves and the have-nots. And for every society to thrive, you need the haves to understand that in times of such as these, it is our responsibility to lend a helping hand. It is our responsibility to say to that man and woman who used to come and clean your house or do your garden but cannot come anymore, that you don't have to come for the next 6 months, but I'll still pay your salary.
That's right.
Or I will create an opportunity. It is those type of things. You know, what this COVID thing has done, interestingly, to speak to both points which were made earlier, it has brought us face to face with humanity. Because we never actually saw the face of humanity until the crisis hit us. And humanity both at home as well as at work. Because at home, for the first time, you get to see the people you live with face to face and have to reintroduce yourself. So that's why out of this process, there's going to be lots of babies or lots of divorces. Or most importantly, we're hoping that there'll be lots of love coming out of this, but lots of understanding. And for the men and the woman, for the woman who every day has to get up and go work as an executive or everything else, there'll be an understanding when the times come back that she's a mother, as she said. She's a wife, she's a business person, and understanding, a little bit better understanding. You know, and I was reflecting, people asking me, people say to me, you travel so much, you must be bored throughout this time. I said, no. All of a sudden, I see my staff twice a day. Before COVID, I never saw them. Because I check in the morning, and I check out in the afternoon. And I get to see and understand them a little better than before COVID. So for your primary question, it is empathy and understanding. We need to understand that they may not be able to reframe, to rethink, to reset as easy as we can. So in that moment, we are required to show our human side.
Thank you. Sylvester, as a business owner, people look to you again for leadership, for direction, for you to navigate through these very rough seas. Where to from here for your clients, for your team? Are you looking to downscale your business? How are you planning to mitigate the risk moving forward for DNA Brand Architects?
It's a big question, and I think I'll answer it in two parts. The first part is going to be around the business itself. I think understanding, the core of the business and why it's there and the services that it requires is something that every single business here and at home will need to do or have done. And I think what Knox had said, she said you need to review. And in fact, we used to make a joke at the office because we say that COVID has almost done this X-ray, this really powerful X-ray to get to see the intricacies of your business. Yeah. So what that did for me, the X-ray process, sort of helped me to see how much money am I spending on every single element in the business. Where are the potential areas of waste that I can mitigate? How can I look at efficiencies around staff, what they're doing, the job spec versus the output, and bring it back onto the table? That was quite important. Not only was it just about your OPEX, so your operating costs, how do we adjust these operating costs to ensure that they are able to manage this right this process. Because remember, the first 21 days were how are you going to be able to survive this first 21 days? And then it was extended again, and it was extended further. So the uncertainty was huge. So what that meant for me was cash in the bank. How much money do you have in the bank? That was quite important. So from the beginning of the lockdown, we needed to think about, with what we've got in the bank, how are we able to sustain it as long as possible while we mitigate the operating costs? Very important. So from a business perspective, I think that doesn't change, because ultimately what it's done, it's just made me that much more sharper, sharpen the pencil, save, and of course put away unnecessary expenses to ensure that you can be able to survive.
So now you look at your fancy office in Fourways and you think, why
office
do I need this fancy? Sylvester's got the most amazing office you have ever seen in your life. As you can imagine, his office is like the physical expression of Sylvester himself. So I'm sure you look at that and you think, well, if everyone's working from home, why do I need all this?
I think there was an element of value that I saw. Funny enough, I will disagree with a lot of people on this one, because what when people are working at home, there's also a lot that's missing that you can't get. Unless, of course, you're the director, you can sit on a terrace by the pool area and work very comfortably in your room. It's not a practical thing for a lot of our staff. So what I said earlier, having our HR tap into every single person and understand how are you working and which environment are you sitting in, allowed then for us to see that there is value in our office. There's value in the ability for you to be able to walk in and walk out, or be able to take time out from your current home environment to step out to a boardroom or an office where you can be able to work. So I see value in it. And I think when I talk about the second part of it, which is going to be the brands, the brands are in the most challenging space, because whether you are a big business like Barloworld or Discovery, you were affected equally, as well as a DNA brand or a small agency or a small business. And I think what was quite clear for me, and this is your question was where to from now, is the understanding that cash in a business is everything. So marketing's job is to try to ensure that we are able to shout enough, engage enough, connect enough with the audience so they can continue to come and bring cash into our business. And being able to ensure that ultimately as a business, when the cash is there, you have to, and I think we've all learned that, I think around the world, even the big businesses that I was surprised that 1 month in, they're already suffering, where they have got 5 billion rand free cash according to their annual results. It's actually quite scary. So the importance of us, I think as entrepreneurs, I'll say, let's respect dollars in the account and try not to spend it unnecessarily. So being able to manage your OPEX and your income is going to be a huge thing. And I think that going forward, we need to be able to reset or review and look at how we manage that, not only in terms of cash in, but also the cash out. And I think that was a huge thing for me.
Well, I think you've done a stellar job. DNA turns 10 next year.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Knox, women have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. Historically, women are disproportionately, I think, worse off than our counterparts. How do you aim to help your female mentees navigate this, considering that they are the breadwinners in most cases in their homes? What would you say the small business person can do right now and right here with what they have to navigate the way forward?
Thanks, Nani. So the most important thing, I think, is exactly what has been echoed by my colleagues here, is the wellness of the person who holds the vision, the wellness of the person who holds the dream. The topic today was about just let's harness the trends, let's look at the trends, and then let's see what opportunities can come out of it. The biggest trends that I've seen for me during this time was obviously the concern around wellness of employees, the concern around wellness of executives who have to have this clear resolve and strategies and carry businesses forward. What that has done is it created niche spaces in the market for businesses. What I would recommend and probably suggest to small business owners and women in business is take your time to understand, what do big businesses right now need that before you were not meeting that need? I look at small businesses that have come out from this time right now, where they offer a virtual wellness experience for corporates. So you get a package of food, groceries, apron, the full works chef hat, delivered for executives to cook with their families. They get to connect with other executives on Zoom as well. And there's a chef whose restaurant wasn't operating, who's now employed and hired for his services to assist with that wellness. We've seen it happen with DJs coming into conferences that are virtual and offering the engagement, excitement, and being hired. So the question I think that you're asking is, how do businesses evolve from here? It's about meeting the needs that we currently are seeing in the market. So don't be too rigid in the initial business that you started off. Revenues during this time for me were coming from keynote speaker addresses, motivational speaker addresses. I changed my keynote speeches to an ebook so that, one, I'm able to sell it, but secondly, I'm able to spread it, that hope, that sense of hope, mindfulness, and not forgetting the ingenuity and the strength of the human spirit to want to thrive and succeed and survive during this time. So most businesses are going to be around, how do I help a mother like Knox take care of her children when she's working? Maybe they can learn a skill to cook. A lot of Instagram and social media is showing home gardening is a huge opportunity right now. Small business owners, women who you passionate about gardening, deliver a box of how to start your home garden. I don't have to go to the nursery. Somebody can just go and find the tomato plants, the beans, the peppers and whatnot, even deliver for me the baskets or basins that I'm not going to go and shop, to make sure that fresh fruits and ingredients that I need at home, I'm able to get. So there's a lot of businesses that are coming out of the need of this current time. So as a small business owner, it's about, what is the most pressing need? Where can I teach? Where can I share my skill online, train? How do I convert what I know in my business into an online course? How do I offer it and pitch it to a corporate business that never was your current client? So it's all about harvesting or checking the trends,
being inventive
in that, and then package, obviously, new offerings that will be now novel and really much needed in terms of wellness and well-being. But most importantly, to carry on and move forward, and I use that hashtag keep blooming, is that we never arrive in business. It's a journey. It's a journey where every day is about, how do I get better the next day? What skill do I need now? Who do I need to collaborate with? Technology is enabling us to collaborate and work with other people far from places that were our immediate operating spaces of business. So the gig community right now, you have 10 years of experience, you lost your job, find another person you can freelance with, have a collaborative freelance consultancy, and make sure that the little bit of money is still flowing in. It's all about, pivoting around what is most needed during this time.
And pivoting being, I think, a very relevant word, especially in your industry. We've seen, we obviously know that PR and communications are so closely linked to the media business. And with all these magazine titles and newspapers having died just in the last couple of months, what does this mean for someone in communications? Who do you now, over and above, of course, influencers, but how are you spending your PR budgets, and where are you spending them?
Well, we've been on a journey, I think, for the past 4 years at Unilever, to really try and, because we understood that we all knew in this room that digital was going to disrupt our lives. And we've been on this journey to really be more people-centric, and understanding that our people are on social media and on digital, and to make it easier for consumers to access our products. So what that meant is that we needed to really change our marketing, communications, campaigns to be more influencer-led rather than media-led. So this has been a journey for the past, I would say, 4 years to really see how our brands can be part of the everyday talk and everyday communication, so that we don't actually talk about our campaigns, but we become part of what is being spoken about on social media. So most of our budget has already been spent on influencer marketing now. So we had already started making sure that the majority of our budget is spent on influencers to really talk about our brands, because most people, yes, they are interested about our brands, but to be quite honest, we're not a Nike. So we need people that are that voice on social media, that people do follow them for interest and are interested in what they do every day, and they become our voice from a brand perspective. So it's important to find that voice as a business and make sure that you communicate that, and we communicate through influencers.
And how do you make sure that the people who represent your brand are aligned to your brand values, and that it doesn't come across as something that's sort of trite or contrived?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting question, and I think we all ask ourselves this every day in terms of how do you balance purpose-led people with your purpose-led brand. And I think it's a fine balance to try and make sure that you find that right fit of a person. But we do have technologies that actually look at and social listen to what people actually say on social media. So if I look at Nonigasa, if I search for the past 60 days, I would really understand what you were talking most about. I'd understand what you're advocating about, and I'd actually really understand who are you actually bullying on social media. So we do go into a very strict process to really understand, do you actually stand for the brand? Are you purpose-led? And also, are you not bullying people all over social media? Because it's important for us to partner with people who have empathy, who show empathy, and who also are aligned to the brand purpose.
Before we take questions from the floor, if we can have 2 or 3 questions for our panelists, that would be fantastic. Thebe, I would just like to chat to you in closing. Is the solution to coming out of this, is it something that the private or public sector, does the onus fall on the public or private sector to get us out of this? And is there a uniquely maybe African solution to how we deal with COVID? We did have, I found, that we had quite I'll call it a first world solution to how we dealt with food packs at the beginning, upping our social grants and that sort of a thing. You'd swear that we were the richest country in the world, considering all those big announcements and the billions that were donated to the COVID relief fund. But is there anything that people at a micro level, at ground level, can do that is uniquely African or resonates with us that people perhaps are not doing internationally?
First, we cannot look to government. We cannot look to anybody else, our friends, our family. We have to look to ourselves for the solution. Because if we are going to move forward, you need to move forward. We can't carry you forward. So to me, that's the starting point. Because the biggest mistake that we always make, yes, it is noble and it is empathetic that we're giving grants for 250, we're giving 1,000 rand meal packs with a meal and everything else. It is the right thing to do. because people pay tax and people pay people tax, and that tax should do good for the country. So that's noble. But for every single individual here, I think we can all look at it ourselves. We can look at how we've gone through this crisis. It took you to make the decision to move forward. It took you, the person. So that's it. Is there a uniquely African way? Well, some of the fundamental values of African. I'll tell you, I got off an aeroplane at 2:00 in the morning in Senegal, in Dakar, and I drove about 3 hours towards Gambia, and I arrived at Gambia at about 5:00 or so. And at 5:00, the border control people tell us you cannot go across because you don't have the permit for the insurance for the car. We're like, at 5 in the morning, where am I going to get insurance at 5 in the morning? Some guy was standing right next to us, and he said, "Problem solved. Just come with me." So now, what is the inclination for most of us here in the continent? The inclination is he is going to do something illegal. He did not do anything illegal. He went with us to a man who was up at that time, who had pre-purchased policies and was busy signing up policies. I was number 3 on that line. When I got to the front of that line, he'd run out of policies. And he says, "No problem. Just go about a couple of blocks away, just knock at the door, somebody will wake up." And that person who woke up was just about to do his morning prayers, and says, "Don't worry, just wait for me here in my office." That is the stoop, the patio. So we waited there for him, and he came in. As this picture I took, and I was touching with my phone. He was busy writing the policy. That is a uniquely African thing, because what binds us here as this continent, we're very entrepreneurial. So when people say a Boer maak 'n plan, they have not seen the real African make a plan. Because we really know how to make a plan. So entrepreneurial thinking has been what we do in this continent. If you go to countries like Ghana, for example, where perhaps in our Western thinking will say there's a lot of unemployed people, they don't see themselves as unemployed because they are out in the streets selling, creating, serving. Whereas we are sitting in other countries, maybe like South Africa, for example, at the street corner, begging instead of solving a problems. So one of the unique values about this continent is just our entrepreneurial thinking, our ability to think out of the box and to make a plan, as the 2 examples I have used do. And that's what's going to carry us through. But the second thing that's going to carry us through is something that we call Ubuntu Humanity. Because we see everybody as part of our extended family. And as part of our extended family, I feel a responsibility to bring you along. That's why when we're growing up and you have 1 or 2 other people living in your house, they're not from your family, but it's because your mother or your grandmother saw them in need, brings them in, brings them up as family. That's why in the African culture, where you have what Western people call stepbrothers and stepsisters, we don't have none of that. We only have family. So everybody who grows under your mother's care is your brother and your sister. It extends to the rest of how we do business and how we do everything. And what's going to carry us through, most importantly, is even as businesses, as small businesses, to support that one person who is trying to make ends meet and is doing it the right way. And that is where Ubuntu comes from. And finally, it is what we call community, because there's a sense of community in this continent, that everybody is part of the bigger African community. In my travels from Cape to Cairo, every single country, it's amazing. I learned one important thing when I travel. I leave my country and my family behind because there is another one waiting for me when I land at every single airport.
Thank you. Sly, you wanted to add? Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Sly, you wanted to add to that?
Yes. I thought that the question around I thought the question around what are the opportunities, and I actually wanted to add to that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
It's actually encouraging that we're talking about empathy, right? And I would say that one of the greatest opportunities we have is for the likes of Spares, the Unilevers of this world, to create work that has a lot of empathy to help us sustain and change the current landscape. So what we are seeing a lot in our boardrooms currently is that most brands are saying, how can I help? How can I help during this period to assist the community that I serve, to assist my customers? And Spare did say earlier that ultimately it's about listening to what consumers want. Because it doesn't help if you are a brand and all you're doing is just shouting about how great you are in a time where your customers are really struggling. So what kind of propositions and or campaigns that can be able to assist that and assist the customers to get better? So about 2 weeks ago, we launched a campaign with one of our clients, Testic, rice with Maxhosa, laduma, and we changed the whole campaign to be about generosity. So a bag of rice that's branded that can then be given to a family in need, much better than just come buy me.
It's amazing.
Or buy more things. So that campaign was not only is it beautiful, but it actually is also addressing and assisting the customer with regards to what they're going through. There was also an amazing campaign we also did about a week ago with KFC, where we're saying, who are the entrepreneurs? And if there are entrepreneurs in this room or listening, please go online and do apply. Looking for 100 entrepreneurs that can be assisted to try to help them pivot around this time. Those that are showcasing the opportunity to do so. And it's called the KFC Hackathon or Hackapreneur. And I think that's another example of how brands and marketing and this platform can be able to assist customers, because we have to listen to what they are looking for and assist them to be able to not only survive this, but also come out of it much stronger.
Did anyone here get their free bag of Tastic rice? Because I didn't.
I'm waiting for mine.
All right, it's coming.
Yeah, so
Thank
the
you.
great part, I mean, I love what Sylvester, you've just alluded to now with opportunities of what brands can do, but it's also about us as small business owners. I think this is the greatest call for our own local brand development, our own culture-inspired brands, our own ecosystems, and also taking advantage of our own markets. So in the township where you are, or in the suburb where you are, I would actually speak to more townships. Why should people still be traveling far out to buy services? Or why should there be huge delivery trucks that come to us in the townships when we can actually set up and establish our very own inclusivity-inspired, culture-inspired, and really our very own? And I think it's so great what Tebe said, the great crisis shouldn't be wasted. This is calling for each and everyone to be reflective in terms of what is my purpose? What am I here to serve? What can I deliver? And whatever it is that you have a gift or a way of serving humanity with, take time to develop, then brand it so that it's easily accessible in the market. Brand it, then put it online. Online marketing, digital marketing, whatever service, whatever brand that you see there's a need in the market, this is the time where we create our own, so we don't force ourselves onto places we are not invited or even seen as individuals or customers.
Well, to that point, COVID is the great equalizer, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you can deliver your product or service,
Yeah.
You don't need to be knocking down the doors of big retailers wanting to get your beauty or your makeup brand listed. You can now start your own makeup brand and get it delivered, which is exactly what the big retailers have done. So to that point, it is about seeking the opportunities and going for it. And I think this has been an enabler for that.
Yeah.
Spare. Before we take our questions, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Noni. I actually just thought about it to what Tebe was saying now. It's about how it's our responsibilities as people and as small businesses to move ourselves forward. And I also thought about the opportunities that are available, like the Testic and the KFC. And also I wanted to add to that is that there are campaigns like that from a beauty at home perspective, which is called Elevator Pitch. And I just thought to myself that it's important for businesses and small businesses to look for those opportunities. Because yes, you can think of different trends and you can research it, but it's important to actually go and look at who's trying to help, which brands are trying to help, so that you can make yourselves available, so that you can help yourself to probably pivot in this time. And I know that the word pivot is used a lot of times, but it is the word for the crisis that is at stake at the moment. So I think that was my ad, is that it's important that we take it upon ourselves to look for the information that is out there, and to be active citizens and to be active business people in order for us to be part of the bigger society and to collectively work together.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry we have to end this and we can no longer take your questions, only because we are broadcasting live on CNBC. But what we could do is take the questions after this panel discussion. So please do keep your questions ready for us. Thank you very much, Knox. Thank you, Sylvester. Thank you, Tebe. Thank you, Spare. It's been, I'm sure as you, our audience here and on live stream and on CBC have experienced, this has been a phenomenal panel. Thank you for that discussion. I think it was a very honest and very resonant point of view from all of you. And we look forward to joining you again this time next year. And thank you so much to our CNBC viewers at home. We'll catch you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.